Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Python request for noobs tutorial. And what Python request is, it's a good way of doing some basic screen scraping, trying to get some data for data mining, maybe even website automation to an extent. It's really good. It's a lot easier than using traditional methods in Python. If you've ever used Beautiful Soup for like screen scraping and stuff like that, this is a bit more modern, very modern approach to requesting web pages. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into how we install Python requests. All right, so if you're on Windows, I'm using Windows 8. It really doesn't matter if you're using 7 or 8 or maybe even XP if you're going back that long. But go ahead and pull up a command prompt, and you just want to go pip install and then request. And I already have this installed, so I have this message that it's already there. You can also just run Python to make sure it is installed and just say import request. And if you didn't get any errors, it means it's installed and working fine. Alright, now I'm assuming you guys have some sort of an IDE, which stands for Integrated Development Environment, to do development with. I'm using Visual Studio. It's a little bit unorthodox, I would say, for Python development, but it is a great development tool, I think, and I use it for C#, so I'm just kind of acquainted to it, and I use the Python for it now as well. But let's go ahead and in a folder here, I'm going to go ahead and just create, I have a scripts folder, and I want to create a folder inside my scripts, which I'm just going to call requests. So I'll add a new folder. And once again, this is specifically for my IDE. Just use whatever method you want, but this is just so that we can store the actual scripts that we're going to be running. And I'm going to call this request. Alright, so let's go ahead and create our first Python file. So however you normally make a Python file, just go ahead and do that. I'm going to say, since I'm using Visual Studio, I just right click, add a new item. It's actually probably not even going to let me do what I want to do. That's fine. I'll just make a text file. Here's a text file, and I'll just name it .py for Python. So let's call this first. We should probably capitalize that, first request .py. And here's my Python file. And first things first, we're going to say import requests. Okay, you're going to definitely need that anytime. Now let's go back to our command prompt, and I want to go ahead and go into where I have my folder where we're going to be storing our Python files. Yeah, I just moved right into that directory right now. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Alright, so I don't really know how to make it bigger. So anyway, let's get back to what we were doing. And the first goal that we're going to deal with Python requests is actually logging into a website. And I have a website pulled up here, New Movies, and I have created a user account just for testing purposes. And I want to go ahead and show you something. If you're using Chrome, you can go ahead and right click on your page and do Inspect Element. Under your network panel, and go ahead and open that up and hit this little circle. It's really it's to clear out all the entries that are there. Mine doesn't have any, but just in case you have entries in there, go ahead and clear that out so there's no confusion. And when you log into a website, it doesn't have to be this one. It could be any website if you're choosing. You need to pay attention to the post parameters that are sent when you actually log in. So in this case, let's go ahead and log in under my test user, which is named test_user, and then my password is test123. I'm going to log in, and then we're going to see that it just sent a login post parameter. So let's go ahead and click on that. And inside here, you can see, if you scroll down, that there's form data. And the form data that got passed, there's a CSRF middleware token, which is a built-in Django security feature to prevent cross-site forgery. So basically, other websites can't post parameters to your site without actually visiting your site first. So make sure that the post parameters are coming from your actual site and not some cross-site. Then you can see the username, password, and then the next. Next should be optional, but it wouldn't hurt to supply that value. That just means where is it going after it logs in, and you can see that this is the root directory, so it logged into the root directory of newmovies.com. Alright, let me go back into my editor here. I wanted to just point out that I did change the structure just a little bit to make it a little bit easier to see. I zoomed in on the text. So we have this simple first request py file that we just created, and the only thing we did was we imported the request framework. So let's go ahead and try to log in based on like standard logging. That should work. It's a demonstration given by the request website. Alright, so a basic login example. Let's go ahead and start by saying with request dot session, make sure it's capitalized, as C. We're going to go ahead and define some parameters here. Alright, so for starters, let's go ahead and give it the URL of the page that we're going to be scraping, or not scraping, but logging into. And we're actually passing it that next parameter that should be optional, but we're going to go ahead and pass that in anyway, so that way it just directs it to the right page after it logs in. Let's create our username variable, and this is test user, and then we're going to create a password variable. It was test123. Okay, now with our request object, we're going to go ahead and say c.get. Alright, and now let's go ahead and let's build some login parameters. So we'll say login data, and we're creating a Python dictionary, so let's go ahead and do that. Now the parameters that we're going to be passing in is simply whatever it's asking for. So it was asking for username and password, so username is going to be equal to the username variable we just created. Password is going to be the password variable we just created. And I'm going to go ahead and pass in next, just in case the actual URL I requested does not work. So I pass in the next parameter. And finally, we're going to do c.post, so we can actually post these parameters. The first argument to post is the URL that you're actually posting to, so let's go ahead and pass that in. The next thing is going to be our data is a named argument for the request post method. So the named argument for data is the dictionary we just created, login data. And if we want, we can add headers, which is probably a good idea. Some of these websites will immediately reject something that doesn't actually have a header. So I can say refer. And my refer is going to be the website that I visited to even get to the login screen. So it'll be newmovies.com. I'll just say admin. It doesn't, well, actually I can just say newmovies.com. It doesn't matter. Let's close that off. All right, and then finally we're going to say, we'll say c.get. I'll just give it a new URL to grab after we log in. In fact, I'm just going to grab the main page. So after we post the parameters, we should be logged in, and then we're going to get the main page, and we'll take a look at what happens. I apologize. One thing that we do need to fix is we actually need to assign the get, because this is a request object, this C is, so we can't just simply use that object to print the contents of the page or the screen. So let's go ahead and assign that get to an actual variable, and I'll just call that page, and then we'll print page.content. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and run this. This text is kind of small. I'm going to see if I can actually blow this up. Alright, I'm not 100% sure how to make that bigger. One of the things I need to do though is the content, when we run this program, I'll run it from this command prompt. It just looks a little bit bigger. It's about as big as I can make it. When we run this, there's too much text being displayed. The thing I was trying to show you is that the login failed, and I was going to show you the reason why, but the thing, I can't show you evidence of that failure because there's too much text being displayed on this page. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the actual profile page for this user. Okay, and we'll actually do the get on that page. Alright, so there's definitely less data that we have to look through here. And one of the things you're going to notice is that there is actually an anchor for login and register currently showing. So those should not actually show up because if we had logged in successfully, then that would not be there. It would actually be a welcome message. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of evidence as to why something like that would fail, but the reason why is because of that CSRF token that I was telling you about before. When we had logged in, we need to grab that CSRF token and actually pass that in as a post parameter. So in order to get that, we have to request the web page first while we're in the request.session method that we're working within. It's actually why I did a c.get here because we're going to go to this URL before we try to log in, and we want to grab the cookie for that CSRF token while maintaining one session. We'll grab this cookie and then we'll store it, and we do it by doing this. So we'll create a CSRF token variable, say C cookies, and then this is just a list item. Okay, and that will store the CSRF token cookie from the browser session and put it inside this variable. And then we just want to go ahead and add it to our login data argument. And the name of the parameter is CSRF middleware token, and then we'll just assign that to our variable. Alright, let's go ahead and try this again. Okay. There's a lot of stuff here, and it looks like I'll have to run it from the other interpreter. Alright, so this is a little bit harder to explain than what I had initially thought. If you want to try to log into another site, it might be a little bit easier to see the direct results. But the reason why we know that this is successful is that the page now has the test user profile name under this header. So if we look at that page after we're logged in, you can see that header is right here. And this only displays after you're actually logged in as a test user. So the login was successful. The first time around it was not successful because of that CSRF token, which is definitely required. So the whole point behind this is that whenever you're dealing with different sites and you're trying to log in, you need to verify what post parameters are being sent when you log in by using the network panel within Google Chrome, so you can match those parameters when you make these requests. Alright, in the next videos we're going to get into some more programmatic use of requests. Alright guys, thank you. Bye.